Hi, my name is Marissa and welcome to the Marissa Flourishes channel, where I share my experiences of recovering from anorexia. Now this is a journey that's currently lasted for a good 14 years of my life, and it's only been in the last 2 to 3 months that I've entered into something that I call full recovery or all in recovery. And in this video I really want to talk about how you and myself can go from someone who may not feel like they're ready for full recovery or feel that they're not ill enough to enter full recovery, because this is something that so many people struggle with. And I think it's so easy for us to get to what would be considered a healthy weight or a relatively normal state of eating, but yet not really be fully free from our eating disorder. And this kind of lifestyle can go on for absolutely many years. And it definitely did in my life. So if you are someone who's gone through an eating disorder, whether that be anorexia, bulimia, orthorexia, and you feel as though currently you're in a relatively better state than you were before, like you may be eating regularly, you may be able to go out with meals with friends, you may even visually seem to other people quite fit and healthy, but yet you know deep down that something is wrong or there is still something not quite right. And this has kind of happened to me for sure over the last year. So stemming back to the end of 2019, I felt that I had come a really long way from where I used to be, which is someone who was very sick, very poorly. I'd been in and out of hospital 5 or 6 times. So to be able to go out with friends and family for meals and eat sandwiches and eat cake and all these other things, I felt that finally I'd achieved full recovery. And yet, you know what, even then I knew that really deep down I wasn't fully recovered, and I'll tell you why that is now. So at the end of last year, I also had an amazing experience. I went to Disney World with my now fiance. He actually proposed to me at Disney World. We had the best of times, but it was on this trip that I actually realised that I wasn't as free as I thought I was. So despite being a so-called healthy weight that, you know, seemingly didn't have any problems around food, I quickly realised that there were certain things I couldn't eat on the menu for breakfast when we were out. In America, portion sizes are huge, and it really overwhelmed me. And a lot of these eating disorder thoughts kind of came back up in my mind to say, oh, well, maybe I should pick that and not that option. And if you've ever been to Disney World or any theme park, you will know that the vast majority of options are burgers, fries, cupcakes, Starbucks on every corner selling you muffins and cakes and pastries. And of course that's legitimately okay, because we should be able to experience this wide variety of different food that life offers us on joyful occasions like going out with family and friends. But in my mind, I honestly felt so overwhelmed by this. And by the end of the trip, even though I was still eating 3 meals and 3 snacks a day, I felt that I'd really boxed myself in and limited myself to, you know, have this many joyful experiences, but not this many joyful experiences around food. Like I knew in my heart I'd placed limitations around things. So coming back from Disney World on a massive high, because I'd just got engaged, I was having the time of my life, I was able to still get involved with things. I came to realise that if I really want to live a full life and give my partner the life he deserves with someone who loves him and is able to give all their time and energy to their relationship and also lots of other things, then I too need to be fully well. And this was hard to really realise at first, because of course that little voice in my brain was, you're already a healthy weight, there's no need to eat anymore, you know, you're not really doing that much exercise, you don't really go to the gym, all you do is yoga and Pilates and the occasional walk. But then when I really looked into what my mind was telling me, my eating disorder side of my mind, I got Marissa to write out a few things, and what Marissa wrote out was, actually Marissa, you are actually doing obsessive compulsive walking. No matter how short a distance that is, you still feel compelled to go out and walk after breakfast, walk after lunch, and walk before or after dinner. That's disordered. You also feel guilty if you don't go to Pilates class. Even if it's a light Pilates class, that's also disordered. Also, there's certain things that you will and won't eat for breakfast. It also has to be in certain measurable quantities that are same and familiar every day. That is disordered. You also tend to want the same things for lunch. You feel scared when you go out with friends where the calorie item of a particular meal isn't available. That's disordered. What's also disordered is if you're going out for pizza with friends and you pick the skinny or light option over a full pizza, even though you can physically manage a full pizza, then that's also disordered. And you know what else is disordered? Being scared of being in a bigger body. For me, as someone who really kind of felt that I'd journeyed quite far into recovery already, it was quite hard to face the reality that I wasn't actually doing as well as I thought I was. And to be honest, going on the trip to Disney, bringing up these, overwhelming amount of things that I couldn't do made me actually think, right, I'm going to have to tackle this. But unfortunately, before I was able to tackle it, I kind of felt overwhelmed. And I started to look in the mirror and think, you know what, actually I have gained a lot of weight since I used to be really unwell. Oh my God, I do eat a lot more than I used to. And I realised that anorexia, which was in the doorway, actually started to creep back in and started to sit on my shoulder and it started to whisper in my ear. And that lasted for only about a week or two. But honestly, by the end of those 2 weeks, I could honestly have flipped that switch and gone straight back to anorexia in a really ill way. And that made me really angry. And I sat down with my mum and my partner, whose name is Dan, by the way, who's really supportive. And I said, look, I know you might not be able to see it, but I'm really struggling at the moment with these thoughts, these feelings around food that I feel are coming back up again. A lot of them which I do around healthy eating, because I used to also suffer from orthorexia, so I often find in periods of slight lapses that I tend to go, oh, that looks like a healthy recipe, I might make that. Or, oh, that looks like a healthy snack bar, I think I'll get those. And before I know it, I'm straight back on that wagon of clean eating only, looking for all vegan food items. Oh, it just, honestly, it's so crazy how quick that switch can flip the other way. And I know in my heart, I am someone, I do want to be fully well. I don't want this eating disorder anymore, which is a massive, massive step forward, because if you're anything like me, you may have had times in your life when part of you does still want the disorder. And it's almost quite shameful to admit, but we have to face the fact that our eating disorders have served a function for a large majority of most people's lives who've gone through an eating disorder. Even if it's only been for a year, you may feel that your eating disorder is a safe place for sanctuary in a time where emotions are overwhelming, things get out of control, and it's like that one little thing that you have in your life that makes you feel secure. So what I can say is that if you're feeling that way, and if you know in your heart that there's still stuff going on in your mind, then that is reason enough alone to recover. There is no way that we can rely on having part of an eating disorder in our life. Even if you feel as though, I want to recover this far, but I still would like to have a little bit, just in case poo hits the fan, I can always, take a little bit of that. It's a bit like an alcoholic saying, well, I'm going to cut out alcohol completely, but in times of crisis, I'm going to have a little shot of whiskey. But you know what? You know as well as I do, that shot of whiskey or restricting even 10 calories out of your lunch could the next day turn into skipping a snack, missing out on calories in a main meal. And then before you know it, you're straight back where you started, restricting food, hiding food, counting calories. All this other poo that goes on in our messed up minds. But even if it does feel really messed up in there, this is reason for you to recover. Now, in my opinion, my personal opinion, I'm not a medical professional, but in my personal opinion, I feel as though what goes on in here is vastly more important than what you see on a scale. So even if a doctor says to you, or a dietitian says to you, you're doing well, the weight's fine, but you know that your mind's not fine, then you have a responsibility on yourself to be honest about that to yourself and even the others you love, so they can support you through the recovery process. One of the hardest things that's happened over the last 2 months is actually realising that I needed to gain more weight. And it's hard because I actually thought I was already at my healthy set point weight. But on reflection, again, when writing down these important things to Marissa on a piece of paper, I started to realise that even though my weight's healthy, I know probably my natural body weight is higher. And the reason I know that is because I still feel cold a lot of the time. I still think about food, have a lot of mental hunger. I still love to cook and bake, which is fine, but sometimes I tend to err on the side of wanting to read recipes obsessively. Also, a key thing is, I was also massively obsessed with calorie counting. Something I thought I'd tackled, but I know for a fact that my eyes, even when trying to avoid counting calories, still goes, oh, I need to look on the back of a packet. And even if I don't need to know, something in my mind tells me that I do. Going off that behaviour and habit, I know that maybe that's a sign of my body saying that it actually needs more calories, because when you're even slightly malnourished, like a pound underweight, your body's going to say, oh, I need to be a bit more aware of food now. And for some of us, that can turn into obsessions with calories. But unfortunately, because of the diet-obsessed world we live in, one that promotes slimness and counting calories and controlling weight, we tend to become obsessed with the things that society values around food, such as calories, fat, nutrition, macronutrients, and before you know it, if you're malnourished and obsessed with food, you can quickly fall down the rabbit hole of being so overconsumed by healthy eating that turns into another problem all by itself. And really what recovery is for me now is eradicating all fear and restriction and control around food. Now, if you've lived with even slight controls around food at a healthy weight, then that's permission for you to say, I still need to recover. I still need to eat 3 meals, 3 snacks a day. I still need to have no limitations around food. So even if you are seemingly healthy, if you know that you go out to a restaurant and will pick that option over another because you're scared of choosing the higher option, or an option that's considered more indulgent or rich, or something that would instill a little bit of fear in you, then by rights we need to tackle that head on. And the reason why that is, if you think it's unnecessary, the main reason that is by restricting and keeping that fear in place, we are willingly keeping a door open for anorexia. And this is no joke. This is a real serious issue, because so many of us will recover to that certain point. We'll get to the hedge, look over and stay in this side of the hedge. What far and few people do is jump over into the unknown, because recovery is the unknown, and that is why it's so scary. A main reason why recovery is so untouchable by many of us is because we still want to stay in the safe zone of what anorexia provides, or whatever type of eating disorder you have, what that provides to you. But I really want to invite you to look a bit deeper in yourself and really ask, do you want to keep anorexia in the doorway? Because there will be times in life, crises, mental health problems, world crises like we're experiencing now, when that anorexia enemy might start to become a bit more of a friend. And before you know it, it's a family member, then a partner, and then it becomes you. And if you've ever had a full-blown eating disorder, or any type of eating disorder, when that eating disorder becomes you and consumes you, it's really hard to separate the two. And recovery, your recovery and my continuing recovery, needs to go further. Even if we feel well enough, we need to allow ourselves to take those steps into the unknown, to breach beyond the calorie restrictions we currently have, to eat X amount of calories a day without worrying about it. Like, you could eat 10,000 calories a day and that is okay, because if you have a fear around food, eradicating that fear is the #1 priority, because ultimately that's going to get you in a mentally healthy place around food and kick anorexia or whatever eating disorder you have out the frigging door, because it doesn't deserve to be in our lives at all. And it's like a domestically abusive partner. Would you continue living with someone who had the potential to talk crap to you, to make you feel awful about yourself, to stop you from eating certain foods, to restrict yourself to a certain weight? Of course they wouldn't. But lo and behold, a lot of people stay in abusive relationships because they're scared of leaving them, the consequences of what that will bring to their life. But we really have to move on now. It's no longer acceptable to stay at a healthy weight if you've still got fears and obsessions around food, and also obsessive movement. Even if you don't have a gym membership, even if you don't walk that much, but you feel like you have to walk 10 steps and you'll feel guilty otherwise, this is your point to realise recovery is necessary. If you've realised that recovery is necessary, what do you do next? So one thing that was massively helpful to me was laying out my reality on the table. I sat my partner down, we went to Costa Coffee, and I said, I am struggling. And he actually said, I've noticed too. I just didn't want to be really in your face about it. I thought that you would have the strength to tackle it on your own. I said to him, right now, I'm really struggling. And for the next week, I want to offer my control around food to you. And if you don't have someone like that in your life, that's fine. Because what you can also do is just say to someone else, can you just keep a little bit of an eye on me? Can you set me some challenges for the week? It can be a friend, a family member, someone online in the supportive eating disorder community online, which is brilliant if you follow the right people with a healthy mindset. And I also decided to invest in myself some tools, which were Tabitha Farrar's book, which is around rewiring the brain in eating disorder recovery. I can't remember the specific title of the name for the life of me, but I will place a link in the description down below. I also started to listen to helpful podcasts, recovery YouTube videos, almost in a bit of an obsessive way at first. I really just needed to click my mind back into recovery mode rather than restriction mode. And honestly, over the last 2 months, I've made so much progress compared to how I used to eat even 3 months ago when I thought I was doing well. Now it's like become a lot easier for me to go out for a pastry in the morning, have a milky coffee as well as my breakfast, go out and have cookies, custard tarts, all my favourite foods. I also make a list of weekly challenges for myself. It's been so helpful, and by writing a list and ticking off those fear foods, it gives you a sense of achievement. And it's not that sense of achievement that calorie restriction gives you, because that is so temporary. Like, calorie restriction is a bit of a buzz, but it's not that long-lasting satisfaction that you would achieve if you were doing something in the best interest of your mental and physical health. Now, I think I'm going to have to create another video on the exact specifics about how to get back into recovery mode after going through a slight lapse, or even not a slight lapse, even just going through a long stage of stability, but wanting to move on to that next level. But for now, what I'd love to say is that you are worth full recovery. Even if you feel as though this has been a stable situation for years, what you are in right now is probably quasi recovery, and it's only a slight version of what you could fully be. And what I've realised over the last few months, even though I'm not fully recovered, I've realised that I've allowed room for life to come back in a bit more, and it's allowed me to laugh a lot more, smile, take time for other hobbies, be creative, and my mental health has improved so much. Like, before, I would teeter on the edge of emotional instability if food wasn't right, even though, again, I was seemingly in a healthy weight and doing really well with food. It's all these little things, these disordered things that feel normal. But really, regardless of what your weight is, or regardless of what other people feel about your health and well-being, only you know in your heart of hearts what you need to do next. And if you feel you have any fears or restrictions around food or exercise or any type of movement, then please use this as an opportunity to get help. Be honest with the people that you love and try to make full recovery a reality. So those are my tips for now on how to get from a so-called quasi-recovery state into full recovery state. Even though I know it's going to be a journey, it's going to be a long journey still, but this is your permission and opportunity to get the help you need, because you deserve it, I deserve it, and there's so much life out there that I don't want you or us to miss out on. So on that note, I'm going to wrap up this video. Thanks for listening, and hopefully I'll get to speak to you soon. Bye.